There are changes coming with the way we vote in San Mateo County, especially with regard to our upcoming elections. So we're lucky enough today to have Jim Irizarry, the Assistant Chief Elections Officer of San Mateo County. Jim, welcome back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
So the County of San Mateo has a brand new voting system, but most of us will not notice any change. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, we're very excited about our voting system, and the reason the majority of us won't see much of a change is because most of the voters in San Mateo County, under the Voters' Choice Act, cast their ballots through the mail. And during the last election, only 12% of the voters in the county actually cast their ballots at a vote center or used the machine, which means approximately 88% of the ballots actually were processed and came through the mail. But for those that will utilize the new voting system, they will see a dramatic change because it's one of the finest state-of-the-art systems that we have, and we're really excited to deploy it during this new election.
So I understand that the previous system was very secure, but why did we change systems then?
Well, the primary reason is that our system we purchased in 2006, our Hart InterCivic East Slate voting system, and it reached the end of its useful life. It was an absolutely excellent system, amongst the safest and securest in the nation. We had over 3.7 million votes that were actually processed through the Hart's system, and not one had ever been compromised. So we felt just absolutely privileged to be able to use that system for so many years. But after 13 years and with the new technology, it literally had reached the end of its useful life. So we have been planning for some time to replace our new system, and we did that. And coincidentally, the Secretary of State had also been looking at voting systems throughout the state. And in February, after we began the process of changing our system, we're going through an RFP, notified all California counties that they needed to change their systems by August 27th. We were well on our way to do that, so the timing was perfect for us, and we're somewhat ahead of the curve, as we usually are in elections here in San Mateo County.
Well, it's good to hear San Mateo County is ahead of the curve again. You had mentioned earlier about only 12% that will be affected. Could you walk us through those changes that 12% that actually go to a voting booth will experience?
Well, it will be simple. First and foremost, the Voters' Choice Act provides choices to voters. So they can vote at a vote center, and you can vote at the ease and convenience of your home, or you can drop your ballots off at a vote center or at ballot drop-off locations throughout the county. So the whole purpose of the vote center and the system in general is to provide ease and convenience for the voter. Those that will go to a vote center will actually see a voting booth. They will have the opportunity, while they're in line, to be issued a number, and they will then be able to go to a voting booth that will see a brand new machine. It's basically like an Android tablet with a printer in the voting booth. The voter will be issued a card with a number on it, and that card will be specific to that voter's ballot style. It's entered into the machine, and then the actual ballot will come up on the ballot marking device. The voter will then mark the ballot on the device, very user-friendly process, and then print the ballot. Prior to printing the ballot, they will look at the ballot on the screen and verify its accuracy, that that's exactly the way they wanted to cast that particular ballot. Once that's verified, then the ballot is printed in the booth. It's a paper ballot, and then it is taken to the counter, which is then put into a ballot box, taken back to Election Central for central tabulation.
Well, seems simple.
Very simple, very simple.
So for the record, and for our viewers, can you just walk us through, again, the different options that our voters have with regard to voting? Because it seems like now there's at least 3, 4, maybe 5 different options that they have?
That was the intention of the Voters' Choice Act, and as you know, San Mateo County was the first county in the state of California to hold a local consolidated municipal school district election in 2015. And so the process is one that we have a lot of experience on. And what that taught us is that it provided many options to voters. And those options are, number one, every voter will receive a ballot in the mail. You will be able to then, at the ease and convenience of your home, be able to fill that ballot out and send it back in a prepaid envelope. So that's really important. You can vote. You'll get the ballot 30 days before, approximately, during the early voting period, and you can send it in all the way up through election day. So you have that convenience of being able to vote at home. However, some voters will need services at vote centers. They may have a soiled ballot. They prefer to vote on a machine. A bunch of issues can come up, and vote centers are put in place over a 30-day period in San Mateo County to serve voter needs. So a voter can then come and have a new ballot printed. They can vote at a vote center on paper, or they can vote on an actual machine. And they also have options as to where to drop their ballots off. As I mentioned, they can send it through the mail. They can drop it off at their city hall, at some public libraries, at our ballot drop-off locations. So there are many options that are provided to voters, and the whole purpose is to provide ease, convenience, and accessibility to the voting public.
Get people out there to vote.
That's right.
Now, how will this new system affect the election result return times?
Good
Because it
question.
sounds like it's pretty much all paper now, right?
Good question. Yes, we've gone from an electronic voting system, which is one of the fastest reporting systems possible, because votes are then cast on an electronic device. Right. Those votes are captured that night, taken to Election Central, and within a couple hours can be basically reported. Under the new system, we're going to a paper ballot system. So those ballots will then be transferred from the vote centers to Election Central, and then they will be scanned and then reported. So on election night, it's going to take some time to get the same results reporting as compared to an electronic voting machine system. The other issue, too, is that the majority of the ballots come in just the days before an election. Really, on election day, we have a huge amount of ballots that are coming in. So it takes time to process those ballots. So the actual totals will take more time because it's a much more labor-intensive process to gather the ballots, to scan them, verify them, adjudicate them, and then report them. So it's going to take a little bit longer.
Right.
But the system that we have in place right now, and the new technology that we're using, will provide some of the highest speed scanners and operational procedures, really some of the best in the state, to move that process along as quickly as possible.
Great. And so our previous system was secure. I know we felt real comfortable about that. How is this new system an improvement of over that security?
Well, I think the first and foremost improvement is that we have new technology. Think of the technology that was in place in 2006 with your cell phones.
Cell phone. Yeah.
Or televisions, right? So we have literally a monumental shift in the technology in elections systems. So number one, the technology has been improved, and it needed to be. Although the HART system, as I said, was perfect, cybersecurity is of utmost importance, not only in elections, but throughout the whole national infrastructure, whether it's nuclear power plants, waterways, you name it. Our national infrastructure is under constant attack in the cyber world from malicious actors who want us to do damage. So the technology that's been put in place is to be able to deal with these very sophisticated type of intrusions that we may see attempting to enter into our voting system. And the technology we have meets all state certification standards, federal standards. They meet many of the states the same standards that, for example, other federal agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, all of those same standards are applying to our elections systems. So the technology was perhaps the most important component there for a change. But the other factors, too, are operational changes, like we mentioned, going from a polling place to a vote center and having the technology in place to be able to manage an election under that new election model.
Right. And the bottom line, no internet, right? Nothing on the internet.
Absolutely. That's really important. Both our voter registration, the two main systems in election is, of course, our voter registration system, which has all of the data as it relates to voter files and voter information, and our elections information management system. And then we have our voting tabulation system. Both of those are separated. There is an air gap. And with our voting tabulation system, there is an air gap with the internet. None of that information interfaces, or none of those systems interface with the internet.
That's great to know. So just in ending, what is the takeaway for our viewers with regard to this new system?
The takeaway is, number one, San Mateo County is very, very fortunate to have a state-of-the-art, cutting-edge voting system that's designed to provide ease and convenience to the voter to get out and vote. The other area, of course, is to become an informed voter, to read your sample ballot guide, to ask questions, to utilize the services at vote centers. But most importantly is to vote, is to get out and exercise your democratic right through the electoral process.
Well, Jim, thanks again for taking the time to be here today and for the wonderful work that your office does.
Thank you very much.
So there are no excuses. Get out there and vote. So from Take Notice, I'm Dan Lawson. Have a safe day.